Do-it-yourself Dave is the next evolution for most buyers. This is where you go from being a newbie Norm or a lifestyle Larry to becoming a do-it-yourself Dave. And do-it-yourself Dave, this is where you become more of a full-fledged entrepreneur in a lot of ways. You've learned a lot of different things along your path and along your journey as an entrepreneur and buying businesses. Usually at this point in your career, you have become either intermediate or maybe even a master at a certain specific skill set when it comes to running online businesses. And when you become this buyer persona, you really start honing in on that one specific piece of knowledge that you know very, very well. So let's dive into it and how you can use this new specific knowledge that you have discovered or learned or mastered for some fun and profit. Let's dive into Do-It-Yourself Dave. Hey everyone, my name is Gregory Elfrink. I am the Director of Marketing over at Empire Flippers, where we help people just like you every single day of the week either buy or sell online businesses. So in this video today, before we get into the content actually, if you want to find out what kind of buyer persona you are, make sure to check out the link in the description. It's our free buyer persona quiz that you can take and figure out who you are. It doesn't take that long. It's like 5 minutes, if that, to fill it out. But anyways, let's dive into DIY Dave or Do-It-Yourself Dave. So Do-It-Yourself Dave is someone that has some experience in the online business world at this point. Maybe they started off buying businesses as a newbie Norm, or maybe they built something from scratch. But either way, they understand how at least one business model works pretty well specifically, and they're usually pretty good at solving at least one specific problem that these type of businesses can face. Usually DIY Dave, whether they bought 2 or 4 different businesses, typically all of the businesses are centered around one single business model. So wherever you started your career tends to be where you remain. You tend to keep focusing on this business model as a DIY Dave. And there's a few different areas of growth where a DIY Dave is really focused. So in one example, maybe they're really good at SEO. So they're looking for websites that have problems with SEO, or maybe they are very conversion focused, where they understand how to make traffic convert at an ever higher rate into actually giving the business money, right? So maybe that's their thing. Or maybe they master supply chains and logistics. They understand how to get the best deals from a manufacturer, how to get the best deal on freight, how to get the best deals on things like 3PL warehouses. And they're just a real pro at actually getting the product in the hands of the end consumer. So whatever it is, usually there's one specific thing that the DIY Dave has really focused on that has led to a lot of success in their life as an investor and as an entrepreneur. So what kind of business should a DIY Dave really buy? Well, a DIY Dave is unlike the lifestyle Larry and newbie Norms in videos past, is actually looking for a business that is not pristine. They want to buy a problem business. But a very key element of a DIY Dave is they want to buy a business that has a very specific problem that correlates with their actual core skill. So like I mentioned earlier, maybe it's SEO driven. So in this case, an SEO driven DIY Dave, they want to buy a business that has a Google penalty. I'll be at a conference sometimes and people will come up to me and be like, why does Empire Flippers list these businesses with Google penalties? That makes your whole marketplace brought into question. Well, the thing is, because we have buyers that want them, but it's not, we vet businesses to make sure they're a legitimate business, not that they meet someone's specific buying criteria. We list businesses all the time that I personally would never buy because it's not my skill set, but it is someone else's skill set, so that is a business that fits their investment criteria. And that is why we list things with Google penalties or a P&L that's not looking so great anymore, that has all sorts of problems, because there are real buyers for these type of businesses. And if you're a DIY Dave, you're one of them. You're looking for these businesses. I have friends, they'll go and buy a business with a Google penalty, fix it, suddenly they're getting a ton of traffic, and now their revenue has skyrocketed because they're ranked where they should be on Google for those specific keywords. Likewise with CRO and everything else I mentioned before. So when you're a DIY Dave, you're looking for a very specific problem. Ideally, that business has no other problems other than that specific problem you really know how to fix. And when you're looking at these businesses, one thing to really take into account is you get to buy these problem businesses basically on a discount, right? So in the example of the SEO example, that business is suffering. They could be making so much more money. In fact, they probably were making a lot more money when they were ranked #1 on Google for all those different keywords, but the owner just can't figure out how to get back to where they were. But the DIY Dave, he can. So you, as a DIY Dave, you basically get to buy this business on what is effectively a discount, fix that problem, and in a month or two, the profit is back up sky high to where it was or where it could have been if the seller knew how to fix the issue. So that is one of the real powerful moves here. This is one of the very first personas where you get to do some real discounting on a valuation of a business because you have built the specific skill set to take that business to the next level. Now, DIY Dave can really buy any kind of business model because every business model will have problems to overcome and challenges that they must face. And if you dive really, really deep into a single business model and in getting really, really good at a specific part of that business model, then really you can go after any business for sale in that specific model. Now, if you're DIY Dave, I probably wouldn't recommend you buying a business model you're not familiar with because you really haven't honed your DIY-ness enough to fix those problems in that business because you just don't have experience for it yet. If you want to expand into a different business model, I'd probably retreat back a step and buy a business that's like a Lifestyle Larry or a Newbie Norm that's more pristine. Yes, you'll make less money, but you are ultimately buying that business as a learning business, right? So if you're a DIY Dave, you want to go to a different business model, that's what I recommend. If you're looking to actually use your newfound entrepreneurial powers, I would look for a business that has that specific problem that you know how to fix because you get to buy that business on a discount. So how does a DIY Dave grow as an investor and an acquirer of online businesses? Well, I mentioned earlier, when you're looking for businesses, you ideally want a business with that specific problem and no other problems. Now, in reality, that is very difficult to do because usually a business that has one problem is like a magnet that's attracting all these other problems to it, right? So you'll end up buying a business with that specific problem, but you'll also probably inherit other problems when you do acquire that business. Now, this can lead to some very painful moments for you where you don't know how to solve this issue. You didn't foresee this issue even when you were looking at the business, right? But this is a good moment. I want you to reframe from that because while it is painful and maybe you even lose money because of it, it most likely won't be the end of the world. You'll most likely be able to soldier on and get through that mistake or that obstacle and overcome it. And this is really, really good for you as an entrepreneur who's investing in businesses because this is how you grow as a DIY Dave. You grow from being the specialist who's really good at one thing, and then you get punched in the face by like all this other stuff that's coming after you, and you get better. You become more resilient as an entrepreneur, which opens up the doors to a way that you can make a lot more money as a business buyer, which is in the next buyer persona I'm going to go over called Flipper Fred. Most DIY Daves are really, really good. When you buy a few businesses, that means you probably have bought those other problems. And if you're buying another business, there's a good chance you've overcame a lot of those problems. And now you're a much more well-rounded person. You're not just good at one thing, you're like freakishly good at one thing. And then there's all these general problems that you know how to fix. Maybe it's like page speed or some conversion stuff or whatever it happens to be. This opens up the door for you to become a Flipper Fred. So if you want to grow as a DIY Dave, look for those specific problem businesses, buy them, fix the problem. Don't shy away from businesses that have other problems, overcome them, which again might be painful. And that will give you enough skills to become what I call Flipper Fred. And Flipper Fred is a very interesting buyer persona. And in my opinion, if you want to grow wealth fast, like really fast, Flipper Fred is the buyer persona you want to become. So we're going to go into that video in the next video, actually. So that's DIY Dave. These people are rolling up their sleeves and putting the work in. And usually they're solopreneurs, very similar to Newbie Norm and Lifestyle Larry. Typically, they don't really have a team. Maybe they have a VA or something like that, or agency that they use to solve some problems for them. But in general, they're usually a solopreneur still. So let's go into the next video to Flipper Fred. If you like this video, definitely subscribe. You'll get notified every time we come out with a new video, whether it's in this playlist or on some other topic about buying and selling or internet marketing in general. And as always, it would mean a lot to me for my own ego if you do subscribe. So I appreciate it. And if you're liking these videos, please leave a comment down below. I would love to read them. I try to read every single one of them. And I also try to respond when I can. And I will see you in the next video. Talk to you soon. Bye.